Hi guys, welcome back after Easter. Hope you had an enjoyable break. Um, I know you were bombarded with lots of news about your exams over the break, and you finally got a decision of sorts. Um, and I know it's not ideal, and I know it's not great for your preparation and everything, guys. But we have to make of it what we can. So you obviously know at this point that the exams are going to be at the end of July. It looks like one exam a day. And we're going to be in for 2 weeks in school beforehand. Now, I'll put it up onto OneNote as well, guys, but the way it's looking for subjects is you're still going to be expected to have your projects done. So, for example, for history, your research project still has to be done. So, we'll be writing that up in school in July for the 2 weeks before the exams. Now we'll get it done in about 3 or 4 classes, so it's not like you have all the work done. You're essentially copying it into your booklet, so that will be straightforward. Now, guys, we were working on revision up till Easter, but because of the way things have happened, we need to get the Northern Irish topic finished. So that's what I'm going to be working on in the next few days, guys. Getting us up to speed on what we've done on that, and then covering the aspects that we haven't done so far. What I will say is it's relatively predictable in regards to questions. There's only a certain amount of questions they can ask in Northern Ireland, which helps us a lot. Today, guys, we're going to be looking back at 2 topics we have covered before in Northern Ireland, but just to refresh it in our minds. Now, the first topic, guys, in Northern Ireland, and that they can ask you about, is the welfare state in Northern Ireland. After World War II, England set up the welfare state. Now, welfare state essentially means looking after all aspects of people's lives, so health, education, social welfare, if you were to lose your job, pensions, etc. Now, Britain was the first country in the world to try this after World War II, and it was so popular with people that Winston Churchill actually lost the election in Britain right after World War II because the other party, which was the Labour Party, had offered to introduce the welfare state. Now, Northern Ireland, being a part of Britain, was offered a welfare state as well, and also as a kind of thanks for their part in World War II. So the welfare state, guys, is the first topic. There was a general election in 1945, straight after World War II, and the Labour Party under Clement Attlee is his name. I'll just write in his name there if you're not sure. Attlee. They introduced the welfare state, and that would mean they would look after people in regards to these 3 headings, guys. And if a question comes up about this is the 3 headings you'll need: health, education, and welfare. So they will look after people in that regard. Now, you will have to pay, if you look at number 3, you will have to pay higher taxes, but in return you get free healthcare. It's called the NHS, the National Health System. You'll hear a lot about that in the news in Britain, obviously, at the moment. That means complete free healthcare for everyone. Now, we're focusing on Northern Ireland here, obviously, it was the same in the rest of Britain. Complete and free medical healthcare in all aspects for people in Northern Ireland. Free education, which is going to have a big benefit actually for Catholics over the next 20 years. And higher rates of pensions and unemployment benefit for people who would lose their job. The British government provided extra money for Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is the poorest part of Britain, so they gave more money to Northern Ireland and allowed Stormont to introduce the welfare state. Now, Stormont at this point was a completely unionist controlled government. Now, unionists initially, if we look at point 5, were against the welfare state because they thought it would benefit Catholics, because Catholics were the poor, deprived community in Northern Ireland, and they didn't want them to benefit, and they thought that if they benefit from this, if their circumstances improve, that will threaten unionist rule in Northern Ireland. So they were against it at the start, including their leader, Lord Brookborough, who was in charge this time, wasn't particularly in favour of the welfare state. It was implemented though, and over time Northern Ireland became more prosperous, benefited from this, while the Republic was really, really struggling. The 40s, 50s, 60s in the Republic were dark times. We obviously had no welfare state in Northern Ireland. Now we'll look over here at education first, guys. So what was done in education? Well, the Education Act of 1945 was brought in, and that was connected to the welfare state. It meant that all councils are in charge of education. Again, Protestants were worried because they felt that religion was going to be removed from schools, and the role of religion would be removed from schools. But if you look at point 4 is the key point here, local authorities had to provide free medical inspection and treatment, transport, free milk for all students in school, meals, and your books were all paid for in school for all kids. They couldn't discriminate against, so it had to be done in Protestant schools and Catholic schools. Large school grants meant the majority of students did not pay any fees whatsoever, which was very different than what it was before World War II in Northern Ireland. Catholic bishops also weren't happy because they complained that the state grants were lower for Catholic schools. But point 9 will become really, really key, and will become key when we talk about the civil rights protests a little bit later on, that Catholics benefited from increased spending at the third level. So up to World War II, very few Catholics went to third level, very few Catholics went to university, but that all changed after the introduction of the welfare state, and it improved a lot, and it helped people like John Hume, Seamus Heaney, who were Catholics, to get decent education. Now, housing, which became a key part of Northern Ireland, again a key part of the civil rights protest a little bit later on. Before World War II, there was seriously bad housing in both areas, Catholic and Protestant, working class areas of Northern Ireland. It became evident when Belfast was bombed during World War II. It did horrific damage because of the really badly built houses. In Derry, Catholics lived in overcrowded houses and flats in the Cregan Estate and the Bogside areas. Many houses, quite common in Northern Ireland this time, for many houses have no running water and no toilet facilities. So the Northern Ireland Housing Trust was set up as part of the welfare state in 1945. They'd borrow money and they would go through a massive scheme of building council housing, and decent council housing with running water, running toilets indoors, etc. By the 1960s, the Trust had built 113,000 new houses. That's a massive number for Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland's population is about 1.2 million, so to build that amount of houses is massive. And the allocation of houses by the Trust did not discriminate. There was no discrimination between Catholics and Protestants by the Trust, but the councils were controlled by either Unionists or Catholics, but mainly by Unionists, and there was discrimination there, so we'll learn about it again in civil rights later on. Now, in lots of areas, simply Catholics didn't get housing. It was always given to Protestants. It was by religion rather than by need. Then moving on to healthcare, so the NHS being set up, which is still a massive thing in Northern Ireland, and something they don't really want to give up. Even if United Ireland ever comes, that's something they're very protective about. So the NHS was set up, but the health service in the north up to that point had been very underfunded and very poorly serviced. It was dreadfully poor healthcare, basically. The welfare state really led to changes in this. So dental, pharmaceutical, eye services, everything, any sort of medical treatment was free for all, not just Protestants. Everyone society benefited from it. We also increased spending in hospitals. But one interesting hospital is the Mater Hospital, Catholic Mater Hospital in Belfast. They insisted on remaining independent. They didn't agree with the new NHS system. They stayed out for years, and it really deprived them of state funding. They weren't allowed to get any funding because they wouldn't take part in the initiative, and they had to depend on basically people giving money to help the hospital, and for years they wouldn't join the scheme. Now, TB was a big killer in Northern Ireland before the welfare state, but the new welfare state helped to introduce screening program for TB, and it reduced, and this helped Catholics get, because most of the people who were getting TB were Catholics. They were living in the most deprived conditions. TB affects your lungs from breathing in damp, and a new screening program pretty much wiped out TB and saved thousands of lives in the years after World War II. Then I'm looking at the economy, guys, from 43 to 63, and it is still connected to the welfare state. So by the 1950s, the post-war boom had faded, and the Northern Ireland's economy boomed in the 40s because of World War II, and building things like parachutes, etc. During World War II really benefited them. But Northern Ireland was, and still remains, the most disadvantaged area of Northern Ireland. But after World War II, there was increased urbanisation, more people moved into the cities. Traditional industries were in trouble, so shipmaking and linen were the two big industries in Northern Ireland, and they suffered after World War II because obviously there was less demand. You had a rising unemployment, particularly amongst Catholics. And the traditional methods of discrimination were not preventing growing opposition from Protestants. And Brookborough, who was the leader at this time, remember, sometimes the question could be asked about Brookborough instead of the welfare state. He was in charge during all of this. Brookborough was forced to resign over the economy. He was doing poorly in regards to the economy. He's replaced by Terence O'Neill, who will do a little bit about again in a couple of minutes. I'm going to get you to watch a video on him. O'Neill concentrated on attracting foreign industries, so getting foreign companies to set up in Northern Ireland. He built a new town from scratch called Craigavon, new homes, new businesses, etc. created in that. Invested 450 million into infrastructure to attract new industries in Northern Ireland. Like Mussolini, like Hitler had done, etc. A major road building program was created. He built a second university in Coleraine, which we'll learn about a little bit later on. It was very controversial. Most companies located, so you have an east of the Bann. The River Bann kind of separates the Catholic areas from Northern Ireland and areas in Northern Ireland. So most of the companies that were set up under Terence O'Neill were set up to the east of the River Bann. Now that's counties Antrim and Down mainly, and that's staunchly Protestant area. Very few companies set up to the west of the Bann. Now the west of the Bann, you're talking about Fermanagh, Tyrone and Derry, which are mainly Catholic counties. There's a big discrimination in that. It's something very useful to remember, guys, for lots of questions. The west of the Bann, or east of the Bann, you can call it whichever, but the west of the Bann scheme by the government. And the British government blamed uneven development for the rise of civil rights movements. Now guys, if I open up your OneNote, you do have all of this in your OneNote as well. Just be a second to open this up. If you go into your Northern Ireland tab, just I need a calendar to the top one actually, and you have Intro to Northern Ireland. Now within that you'll find point to scroll down a little bit, guys, and there's plenty about it. Down here explains firstly about the forms in Northern Ireland, but then it goes into from depression to prosperity, so it talks about the economy. There's lots in the slide that explains the welfare state is mentioned there, and all awesome. That should be your friend, guys, to use that over the time. I think I'll give you the handout on the welfare state if you do need it, guys. Obviously you have it in the video, but just send me an email and I'll send it on to you. But there's loads of points, guys. A very, very good PowerPoint, so it's worth looking at that. Again, look, explains about TB, the improvement in social welfare, goes through all the headings, educational reforms. So everything that I mentioned there is going into greater detail. The bits that are in red are key. Question that does get asked quite a lot, the welfare state, guys. So it is worth looking over. One other thing I'm going to get you to do then, guys, after you've revised the welfare state, is if you go onto YouTube and type in Terence O'Neill. And if you look at the first video, Terence O'Neill, success or failure. It's an 8-minute long video, guys, but I would suggest watching that. I'm going to turn on the music a little bit. It's very, very good for explaining. It's from a Northern Irish school, but explains about Terence O'Neill, new leader of Northern Ireland, at the end of the welfare state, where he's success or failure. Now that question on its own can get asked a lot. So was Terence O'Neill success or a failure? It's a very, very good video, guys. It'll really prepare you for this video. He's an incredibly important person from this topic. Watch the video, make sure you understand the key bits about him, but he is somebody you really need to know, guys, for this topic. Terence O'Neill, again, he is in your OneNote. You'll see the O'Neill years. He is mentioned in there. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on that tomorrow, but have a read through that, guys, as well, and make sure you're up to speed on that. Incredibly important. Now Coleraine will be mentioned there. I'm going to do a little bit more on that with you tomorrow, guys, but if you could have a look over that as well and keep you up to speed on that topic, guys. So we might leave that there and then for today, guys. The video is about 8 minutes long, so you watch through the video that I've just done with you talking about the welfare state, look through the notes in the welfare state from your OneNote, then look through Terence O'Neill, watch the video on Terence O'Neill on YouTube. We're still playing through there. Stop it and pause it whenever you need to. And lastly, then you can look through the notes in OneNote on Terence O'Neill. Again, guys, any questions, send me an email anytime. Don't be left in the dark on anything. Send me an email any question you do have at this point. Okay, all right, guys, I shall talk to you tomorrow.